We're resuming recording. So, welcome everybody to the June 16th EDIC meeting. We are recording this meeting, and I invite you to remember that meetings recorded and replayed on Easthampton Media provide a pretty different and unique perspective of your participation as a member. If your camera is on, everyone will see your facial expressions, your mannerisms, your eye rolls, your actions during this meeting, and that's pretty different from a recording of all of us at a table in City Hall. So just, be on your best behavior. It's also required of me that I point out that pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A, paragraph symbol 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Easthampton Development and Industrial Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public is permitted. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. We will post a record of this meeting's minutes on and its agenda. A recording will be made available via Easthampton Media. The City of Easthampton would like to remind everyone that wearing your mask when you cannot maintain at least 6 feet of social distancing is still very important to prevent a surge of COVID-19 and the need to go back to stricter precautions. So please wear your mask, maintain your space, and wash your hands. Okay, so I'd like to remind everyone of what EDIC's mission is, which is to support and enhance the economic environment for current and future businesses, residents, and the Easthampton community at large. We have a few things on the agenda today. Jeff Bagg from the Planning Department will not be able to join us. He has sent me an update, which I will share with you. I would like to begin with approving the February 18th, 2020 meeting minutes. Has everyone on the EDIC as a member had occasion to review the February 18th, 2020 meeting minutes?
Yes, I would move to. I would make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay,
Second.
Great. Welcome, Casey. I see that you are here. I've automatically muted you. When you want to talk, feel free to unmute yourself. Okay. And we are in process of approving the February 18th, 2020 meeting minutes. We've just had a motion to approve and a second. So we need to take a roll call vote to approve. So I'm going to start with, I'm just going to go clockwise-ish. So Tom Brown.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Let's see, Paul.
Yes.
Yes.
Mo.
Yes.
Dave Boyle.
Yes.
Great. Casey. All right, we got a thumbs up. And Gwen says yes. So, very good. Thank you. The February 18th, 2020 meeting minutes are approved. So now we have on our agenda some public speak time. We have 2 members of the public with us here today, Sunia and Karen. And I am happy to have them sit in on all of our meeting. And also I believe that they have a couple of statements they want to make to the rest of us. So, and Karen, would you like to start, Sunia? You're unmuted, so I'm going to start with you. How about that?
Sure. My name is Sunia Hood, and I'm the owner of the La Cruzana restaurant on 31 Union Street. And I'm here in support of the plan, number 4, the plan to save Easthampton restaurants. I think that providing outdoor seating in addition to whatever little sidewalk space that we have, if it can work within the city, it would help the local restaurants. We are now just starting and getting approval in Northampton. Those who might not have seen Northampton's layouts, they have, as stated earlier, wider streets. So they're able to provide a little bit different setup than what is being proposed here. But they have cement barricades that the city has put up in front of each restaurant, blocking the parking spaces in front of the restaurants or giving them to the restaurants to use for outdoor seating. Our location in Northampton, it will allow us probably 28 more seats to give, and that, along with perhaps the next phase of opening up inside, will get us almost to probably to full capacity, which would be great on a sunny, beautiful. I mean, the weather has to work for us too, but that alone is going to help our restaurant quite a bit to, I wouldn't say recover. I don't think that that's going to be a recovery stage. I think it's going to be still a survival, mode stage, but we certainly need all the help we can to continue to survive. I can talk more, but that's probably enough.
Okay, very good. Karen, is there anything that you would like to share with the group?
There was nothing I really wanted to add. I was more interested in what the plan might be for that, and was excited to hear that it would be something that we were considering doing in Easthampton. So just more to support Sunya, and then to learn what's going on in the community. I live it.
Great. All right, thank you for that. So I guess I have the order listed as planning department update and then a discussion of Paul's proposal. So because Jeff can't be here with us, he did share some materials with me, which I'm sending all of you EDIC members right now. I wonder, maybe we should lead with your proposal instead, Paul, because Jeff included in his message some comments on it. So why don't we open up the discussion and then talk about that? Does that work for you?
Yeah. Problem there. How is the best way we can do this? Should we go, like, I could share the screen and we could look at the proposal and talk about it that way?
Sure. Let me give you that access. You are now able to share your screen.
Okay. Everyone see it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is the idea, and this is something that I put together kind of quickly, and it's very possible that there's some reason that I just don't know that this is be completely impossible to accomplish. So I really am excited to kind of bring it to you guys and get some feedback about it, and hopefully we can figure out something to help out these restaurants and the other businesses. So basically, what I thought we might look at doing is closing essentially half of the road on Union Street and Cottage Street, and you kind of making those streets into one-ways for those little portions and routing the traffic around and allowing restaurants to expand into that space, to use the sidewalk and to use maybe the space where we have on-street parking or a little bit into the road, but leaving enough space, I don't know, 6 feet or 8 feet or 10 feet or whatever between kind of where we would section it off, where it would be pedestrian space and kind of have a buffer between where people would be eating and where people would be driving. Yeah, so we look at Cottage Street. It's pretty easy because of Maple and Chapel. But when I looked at these roads, it seemed like Maple was not really a great way to have two-way traffic if that was going to be, if it was going to take all of the Cottage Street traffic as well as what it typically has on its own, especially for larger vehicles. And there is some on-street parking over there that kind of thins the road. So that was really kind of the idea of, oh, well, what if we made it a one-way? And if we, could implement this, I list all the restaurants here that would be able to offer outdoor, food service, but also, it's important to note that like a lot of these other businesses that are not restaurants really depend on the foot traffic. And right now they're just not getting it because nobody's going out to eat. I went downtown even on Saturday this weekend. There's like no one there. It's like it's a ghost town. It may not be all the time, but so that, also looking at Union Street. Union Street's actually really convenient in a way because most of the businesses that serve food are really on this one block of space. And there's only one other business on the road, which is the pizza place there, Pizza House, I think, that this wouldn't really make an impact for. So in this, Sunya is here and Karen from Pokeball and La Vera Cruzana. So thank you guys for coming. But, oh, and Mo, you have the Chamber of Commerce right here. So, but anyway, I feel like this would be a nice thing to do for the economy and for the restaurants that we have that right now are really struggling. And I know that soon you can speak more to kind of the expenses that they've incurred and the decrease in business. But I know that it took a really long time to fill a lot of these spaces, both for regular retail, but especially for these restaurants. And, you know, my worry is that if we don't do anything, then we might lose them. They're not going to survive. And how long is it going to take to fill those spaces again? And what does it mean for the community at large? So if we were able to do this on Union Street, the traffic flow would look something like this, where only that small part of the Union would be a one-way. And you would see some small passenger cars might take Chapman, but for larger vehicles, that really is not an ideal road because there's like a tight, like thin turn over there. But there's also a tight corner here where Payson and Park Street meets. I don't know how impractical it is, or maybe it's fine. You know, I'm not an expert in traffic, but so this is just kind of my idea. I'm really just hoping to start a conversation with this. So if anybody has harsh criticism, I won't take it personal at all. You know, it's just, I'm just throwing this out here and trying to help out. So, to do that. And, oh, and the other thing that's really important is that we have a detour right now, kind of a citywide detour with the Ferry Street project that shut down Ferry Street. So it's already routing extra traffic, you know, through Union and Cottage Street. And this would be affected by, you know, any kind of plan like this. So I mocked up like what the adjustment would be with all the directional arrows, just to be consistent here. So someone had suggested that if this, let me go back up here, if this corner, like a friend of mine had said that if this corner was too tight, that this could be a one-way and we could route the other traffic around here and give larger trucks the clearance to go there and kind of like, you know, go a little bit out into that side of the road. I don't know if that would be a feasible solution, but it's something a friend had mentioned as an idea. I think that, oh yeah, so, and then I just have some questions that just, you know, popped up to me as I was, you know, thinking about this. And, you know, especially the idea that maybe like if this were impractical to have as kind of a semi like, you know, permanent thing throughout the week, would it be possible or practical to do something that would last from Friday night, you know, through Sunday, which would be kind of the peak time for the restaurants? And I know that it's not, you know, maybe what everybody wants, but it would really make a difference as far as the traffic of the larger trucks that are coming in and out to service the businesses during the week, during the weekday. You know, and then just other questions like, I mean, if everybody said, hey, this is a great idea, we want to do this, let's do it, could it actually be done quickly? Like, I know there's hoops to jump through. Another question I have, I didn't actually put it on here, but it would be about alcohol and what kind of ordinances that we have. I know we have no open container. You know, could the city council change that in a way? What kind of mechanisms would we be able to do to kind of allocate that space to the businesses? You know, is it an idea to do like a zoning overlay where we say, you know, you have a certain amount of space in front of your business that can be considered part of your storefront and subject to those regulations? I mean, I don't, you know, these are just ideas here. And what would, you know, would it be safe? I mean, if it would be safer to be able to eat and for people to go and be outside than being enclosed indoors, and that's why they can't eat inside right now. But, you know, what kind of safety, you know, complications with regard to the traffic would there be? Would people like this idea? How would the community like this idea? Would they take to it? Would people go out and eat again and you know, patronize our establishments again? I think they would, but I don't, you know. And are there other like pitfalls? Is there something here that I'm not seeing that would be like, hey, this is impossible? Like, you know, that it's very, you know, that could be the case. And if so, that's cool. Oh, and lastly, these are part of a state highway, these roads. And what kind of complications would that provide for us? If we, let's say everybody wanted to do this, would the state be, you know, is that just another hoop to jump through? Like, how big of a deal is that? I don't know. So anyways, this is my proposal. I hope that it can be a good starting point for, you know, a conversation. I hope we can do something, because I think our businesses are really struggling and we don't want to lose them. It's so important in our community that we get our economy going again. And, you know, let's hear it and let's see what you guys have to say.
So before we jump into a larger discussion of that, I will remind you, those of you who are members of EDIC, that I sent you an email since this meeting began with Jeff's thoughts, because he can't be here. What he wrote in his message is that he has logistical concerns, and he included that we should keep in mind any pared down versions of this concept, given new health department guidance out today about dining. So if you scroll down in that message, you'll see a message from Brianna Eichstadt, who shares information about expectations for how that might work if you're outside. So that's just for our information as we talk about this. But with that, hi Chris, welcome. You are automatically muted, just so you know. So as people want to speak, I invite you to unmute yourself. If you know that your environment is loud, I invite you to mute yourself while you are not speaking. So who wants to have a comment on Paul's proposal for now? Tom, you look like you want to talk.
Yeah, so Gwen, my first question is actually for the mayor, if she's aware of it. How close are we to the part of phase 2, or if it's phase 3 that allows indoor dining? How far away is that potentially?
I mean, potentially, the governor could start talking about it this Saturday and allow some of it, or give people a heads up for June 29th. And so far, all indications are that he is going to go ahead with the June 29th date, but as far as like percent of occupancy is kind of being batted back and forth.
Yeah, every other retail establishment is dealing with some capacity limitations based on square footage, so it might be the same for restaurants. But I thought in the back of my mind, I had heard that we weren't that far away from real inside dining.
No, I don't think it's, I don't see a hesitation on the governor or DPH to say it would be later than June 29th. I don't see it before that, but you know, the governor has made decisions that have been surprising around it. So it's not completely out of the question, but right now I'm hearing June 29th, and the question is what percent of indoor occupancy will be like the number.
Yeah, and the only thing I had heard, Nicole, was that he was probably going to delay was bars. That was still making him pretty nervous.
Yeah. There are some workarounds there, but with the bars, I think, for at least Easthampton and how it could work. But inside bars, you know, I don't think that's you know, I hate to speculate, but I don't see the inside of bars, sitting at a bar happening until the fall.
Yep.
Mayor, I saw that you had your hand up. Is there more that you would like to share right now?
Yeah, I just want to, I think that the proposal is fascinating and really well thought out, and I'm sure there's going to be a great conversation here. There are a couple of things I can speak to. So the rerouting of travel as proposed, and we've been looking at this for a while, is pretty difficult because of one, the Ferry Street detour is in place at least probably until the end of August. As well, Route 10, the Mass Works project up by River Valley, that will go to one lane during work hours and maybe overnight for some part of it for up to 6 weeks. Additionally, the top of Pleasant, Ferry, and Lovefield might go to one lane, and during work hours, you know, have a police detail alternating direction with Jersey barriers. So not only will it be very good chance that will go down to one lane using Jersey barriers, so the Jersey barriers stay in place for the duration for that part of the project. So that will be slowed down. The East Street and that area paving is going on. That's gone a little faster than we thought, and really they have some work around the manholes and then striping, which, you know, once it starts should be relatively quick, you know. But with the INSA back up, there's a little more congestion on East Street than usual. Park Street, the foundation of the roundabout is pretty much there, but once they start the paving and more in and out with steel, South Street is really that's going to be a concern in that part of Park Street and South. I don't think it's never been a huge part of our concerns when we've looked at detours, but it comes to my mind, Paul, with that one about using Park Street. And there's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of truck traffic there now, especially since the school itself is closed. And there is a big push to get that roundabout done by August. So when school should start again in the fall, it's safer and there's not road construction as buses are going in and out and parents and all of that. So I'll say now the police have significant safety of concerns with rerouting and closing down Cottage and Union because of truck traffic, even to one lane. And I'm not speaking in absolutes for them, but that's what's come up before. And Maple Street definitely as a one-way, never mind a two-way for commercial traffic is a concern because it's narrower than Cottage Street. Can you go back to the list of questions, Paul?
Yeah.
Great. So doing it just for the weekends, we looked at doing that with Ferry Street and other detours. Our traffic consultant said it's very, like, you have to educate the drivers. So it's easy for accidents to happen when all of a sudden barriers or the flow of traffic is changed and there's not an active detail there. And that details would definitely need to be put out, and because it's not like a 1 or 2 day project, it would need to be paid. So like you see on Ferry Street, the police detail that's there is paid by the contractor. So it's a private expense. So implementing something like this quickly certainly could be done in a matter of weeks. I can't speak to the property owners. I do think that Williston would have concern about the use of Payson. I'm not saying it should stop that bill, stop looking at that choice, but I feel I think Williston would have something to say about it. I also, with the tables, so tables 6 feet apart, and Bree was waiting for clarification and whatnot. So the idea that tables, like say from the center of a table to the center of the other table, are 6 feet apart is one thing. But when someone's sitting in a chair, is the back of their chair needs to be 6 feet from the other back of the chair, right? Because if the idea is social distancing 6 feet, it's very possible you have people sitting in chairs that the person's, they're closer than 6 feet. I don't know how that works out in the current order. That's definitely a Bree question. Open container, and that Lindsay Mailer could walk through that with anybody on this committee, of what the Alcohol Beverage Commission has changed a lot of those regulations to make something like this happen as soon as possible to give relief to restaurants. But I don't know the ins and outs. I know that the city council has talked about open container law and how can they change that by even a temporary ordinance. From what we have heard from the state about liquor and beer and wine, if there's an outdoor space that's cordoned off, then that business's footprint of liquor license would extend to their outdoor space, even if that outdoor space is temporary. And I think that's what Northampton is assuming too. It would need local approval. But Lindsay Mailer in my office, she's back to work and she's been working really hard on this. So if anything like this happens or anybody wants outdoor space, that we can help them with that liquor license as fast as we possibly can and not hold it up. So yeah, I just wanted to make of those. Well, I'll actually make one more comment. And then as far as dining, so the barriers to expand outdoor dining for individual restaurants are pretty high, and as a result, when we just applied for the Complete Streets Readiness Project, which is $5 million across the Commonwealth for, I'm sorry, we haven't submitted the application yet. We are on Monday, for quick fixes and things that wouldn't need any changes in ordinance or overlays, right? And we focused on the downtown area and connecting it to the park with safe bicycle and also ADA accessibility on our sidewalks. Because we just kept looking at outdoor dining and how to do that. And you have to guarantee to start the project within 15 days, and extra points are given for projects that are done within 30. And we did not feel comfortable that we could get through the many issues of outdoor dining on a large scale, like for restaurants in that time frame on Cottage and Union. So we, Jeff, myself, and the city engineers, we just couldn't get the grant application to score high enough where we thought we'd be competitive because it's only $5 million. So now I'm done.
Actually, since you brought up the Union Street project, I'm just curious, what is the traffic rerouting plan when they shut down Union for construction?
We don't have that yet. Mass DOT gives us that because it's a state highway and it's state funds and federal funds that pay for it. So at the last couple of public hearings, there were suggestions. Mass DOT runs those meetings. They took suggestions and comments, but they have not given us a traffic plan. And I think a part of that is they want to see what is or isn't open in the city with other projects. We don't have, like, I can't imagine what happens where we'll have, I think all of our major road projects will be done by the time that starts. But I'm not sure. And MassDOT takes over. They have comment from the city and the public, but MassDOT's the one who gives us the layout, and we can comment and push back a little bit, but when it comes down to it, it's them. We cede our local rights, unlike here.
I had heard somewhere, Mayor, don't hold me to this, way back at the beginning discussions years ago about Union Street, is that the intention was that Union Street would remain open during construction.
I mean, I think that I do believe that is still the crux of it. And it would be a situation where you'd have a police detail, like in one-way alternating traffic, which is actually going to happen on Route 10 soon. And the question would be, what happens during the weekends and what happens in off hours? Can you reopen both lanes? But Mass DOT is pushing, leaning towards that idea, because what a disaster it would be otherwise.
Right.
And I don't know how much time. Yeah, we don't know the timing of the project, of like when paving, and they're going to bring that road down to like the bare bones and completely rebuild it. So the timing of that, I'm not sure of.
And I think, Paul, the reason why there was going to be an attempt to keep it open is that could be as much as a 2-year project.
Oh my. Well, that's good.
So I'm going to jump in here and say that I want to recognize that Chris raised his hand. Chris, do you want to share something still?
Sure. Sorry I was late, guys. I'm pretty familiar with the document though, and I'm wondering if you guys discussed in planning, because I understand the closing the roads is a big ordeal, but has anyone discussed setting up barriers like they have outside of Amanuz in Northampton, and just closing the parking and keeping the roads open as normal? And maybe in the case of Cottage, you can open up the Maple Street School parking lot to replace those closed spots. It would open up maybe 11 feet on the roads, or maybe less, maybe 9 with the barrier width, but it's something.
I would have safety concerns considering the number of side swipes we have with the trucks.
Trucks.
And some of the trucks that are rumbling through town right now, like with asphalt and whatnot, those big dump trucks are wider than some of the 18-wheelers that go by. We have a lot of lost side view mirrors on Cottage. A little bit on Union, but more Cottage.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh wait, but that said, Chris, too, though, Jeff had a plan, and I think he's going to use Maple Street. He went to the school department to use Maple Street for additional parking, to kind of free up parking. So I will, one, just let you guys know that, and then put some new lighting at Maple Street so it's well lit. One of the questions I have for Bree, I'm so glad you said that, is if we were the parking, I'm sorry, using public space and parking spaces for restaurants, does that space need to be tangent to the restaurant? So if there was a common space that would make sense for the restaurants, right? I mean, it might be a tremendous pain in the neck. If they did table service outdoors to a more common area, and I'm just going to throw it out there, like across from Glory of India and La Veracruzana, and maybe talking to the landlord over there about, like, is that possible? How would beer, wine, and liquor work? Because I think that there are maybe some places where that is possible, but it would, you know, the restaurant owners would be in the best place, you know, to discuss, like, one, the staffing of that, but the quality of their food being served. If they're not walking out their front door and putting it, you know, in a parking space that's now eating or sidewalk.
So,
I don't think we could do that with alcohol.
Got it.
We have to visibly see from the restaurant where it's being served,
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah. All right.
I believe that was an answer that I had to give in the Northampton addition to our outdoor seating. It was a specific question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mayor, do we know, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of restaurants in town that have put up seating on the sidewalk. So I see it at Nini's. I'm seeing it at Silver Spoon, Antonio's. Did they just do that, or was that permitted somehow?
If they're serving alcohol, it was permitted. And it went through the state as well as the local board. Under these regulations, our understanding, and again, I'll defer to Lindsay, who can, like, has the forms. Our understanding is that that kind of table seating with the serving of alcohol is permitted, and you only need local approval. Something like when you get like a one-day license to do something. That is our reading of these regulations right now. But I am precluded from weighing in, other than to repeat the information I just had, because I own a liquor license, and Lindsay and Peg Conniff have taken that over from the city side. And then of course there's the licensing board, which is chaired by Kelly Ritchie, but Lindsay's doing that work.
So I'm curious, Sunia, does it help if you were at least able to use the sidewalk?
So I last year was able to put up 2 tables and had approximately 4 more seats, which yes and no, it helps. But with that question, to your question, I put on the tables, we were not allowed to serve, people were not allowed to serve alcohol out there or drink alcohol out there, because we did not at that time go through the little city thing. And so the mayor is correct. If I wanted to serve or have alcohol drank out on those 2 tables, I would go in front of the city. Like I have my meeting in Northampton on Thursday to go in front of their city license commission just to get approval for alcohol to be served outside. So if my tables were to be able to be expanded to more than just 4 seats, I absolutely go through that process. And because alcohol will help my sales. And but 4 seats do not do much for me.
Yeah, unfortunately, the sidewalks aren't huge there either, so.
They're not, and mine is slanted downward, so
Right.
all tricky.
So Casey, I'd like you to have a chance to say something.
Sure. I'd be curious to know, are all the restaurants on board on doing this? Do they think it's a solution? If I was in that area, I would have serious doubts. I know how much I'm losing on a regular basis. Ask me to reinvent my business plan and buy outdoor furniture and staff for outdoors would be a money-losing proposition for me. And I wouldn't be interested in doing it. I know that my outdoor dining, which I spent $7,000 to $8,000 last year for a gazebo kind of thing, is not very popular. The weather has to be perfect. The bugs, the sun, the wind, the rain, elements, times are different now, so things could be differently. I just would have to hear a steady roar from these business owners saying that this is what they wanted. I would really feel bad if the city inconvenienced a lot of people to set up these traffic plans and then it was only mildly attended. We set up our backyard, our back patio this weekend. Facebook promoted, Instagram promoted. It's big enough space, 6 tables, plenty far apart. Friday night, 0 takers. Saturday night, 3 parties. So I'm not sure the quickness needed for people to make a decision. I don't think people are ready to go out. I'm not ready to open my doors. If indoor dining is going to be the 28th or 29th, like the mayor said. That's not what we're focusing on. We're looking at the 4th of July, the weekend after the 4th of July, to contemplate opening our doors. It's just a financial thing as far as bringing on employees and knowing whether the sales are there. So I think that as optimistic as people are, that people are going to be going out, and restaurants are going to see some capacity percentage there. It's not a profitable situation. So the idea is just to lose as little money as possible until the fall, when everybody will be comfortable and life will go back to what it's potentially going to be. But otherwise, I sticking my head in the sand and I'm waiting this thing out. We're going to just continue to go, and then we're going to do outdoor dining to go style. We're not going to order service for the month of July. It's just doesn't make sense for us to bring in all those employees for a few amount of tables. So that's my viewpoint. If the other restaurants feel like they want to go full bore on this thing, then let's hear from them and let's consider it. But I think that it's very inconvenient for a lot of people. So
Paul, I wonder if you have anything to share from your perspective at the chamber.
I don't even know if I have the words, honestly. It's, such a predicament. And I don't know that, I just wonder, like off the top of my head, I wonder about deliveries on Union. And that would be my only experience because my office is there, and I see a Small Oven trying to get their deliveries and they're backing in, and it's difficult with 2 lanes. So I don't know how that might work with 1 lane, but that might be a workable problem, and that just kind of comes to my head quickly.
Okay.
Sorry, Ashley.
Okay. Paul, we have 12 minutes left before this meeting is over. Cassie and Dave, I welcome you to share your thoughts if you have some. I don't want to leave you out. So feel free to unmute yourselves and weigh in, but I want to be clear that we don't have much more than 10 minutes left. And we have a couple of things that I want to share that aren't specific to this proposal. Oh.
If I could, just very quickly, if something can be done, I'm all in favor of it. I'm aware of 3 businesses that will be closing. They're not restaurants in the next month, and the reason they're closing, and I don't mean this, I'm very sensitive. I don't mean this in a critical way, but their heads are in the sand and they're not reimagining what's going on. We're only in the first period of this crisis. I'm a little bit nervous about Jeff's comments about logistics, because that gets back to his old, let's take a study, let's look at this. It's a brave new world, even with the social protests. What are we going to do about housing? Are we going to get another grant, wait till next year? Or are we going to freaking hit it hard? They don't have time to hit it hard. Everyone's going to be desperate. I could be wrong, but the next wave is going to suck harder than this wave, and people need to start reimagining what they want to do. I understand Casey's point of view, lose the least. I'm kind of in that same boat in my business, but other people have to make more bold steps. So anything that is workable, reasonable, do it tomorrow.
Thank you. Cassie, is there anything you'd like to share?
Nothing really of substance, but that I agree that we just need to become much more nimble and focused on expediency, not as much on process at these hard times.
Yeah. Sunya, I welcome your closing thought on this topic generally before I hand it off to Paul.
Okay, so I have two restaurants on Union Street, and we would certainly welcome some help from the town in this format, or, you know, if they can come up with a different format. I think that we're all struggling and we are trying to just recreate ourselves. And the mind-boggling thing is that we have to recreate ourselves every 3 weeks, it feels like, you know, and we're not always on top of it, but we're doing our best. And any support that we feel coming from the town, whether it's trying to, you know, even just having a discussion is nice to have, nice to feel, because it sort of feels like at least the town is trying to rack the brains to figure out how to help our small businesses and try to help the local businesses. And so I appreciate that. And I appreciate Paul for trying to do this, and hopefully something can come out of it, because, you know, to Casey's point, or to anybody's point, to have 2 tables doesn't help me. If I'm able to expand it to, you know, 3 more tables, that will give me 5 tables, that will give me 10 seats, you know, and then I can do 40% of inside. Well, that's something. That's more than what I have. But so for the 2 local restaurants on Union Street that I can speak of directly, we would support this for sure.
Okay. Chris, you want to share something? So you're the last one, and then I'm giving it to Paul, and then he decides what we do next, and then it's my turn.
When?
Okay, so I think when the mayor spoke, she mentioned something about using these spaces like 50 Payson or Maple Street or the subway parking lot as maybe as a staging ground for tables. So you can get more than 2 tables. I understand the logistics of moving food from any of these places across the crosswalks into this, but it might be a pretty innovative solution to discuss or think about for the future, or as soon as possible, because I know speed is of the essence here. I think it'd be a cool place if there were 20 tables in these parking lots that were somehow mass sanitized by all the restaurants, if the restaurants were interested. I just wanted to highlight that.
Gwen, I promise I'll be quick.
All right. And then Mo.
Just real quick, again, I think the governor is going to loosen this up a lot on the 29th or around the 1st of July. To Dave's point, if we went full steam ahead, we're not going to have anything in place by that time anyway. So hopefully that's some relief on the calendar for the restaurants. But maybe in the fall, with the chamber and the EDIC combining their efforts, maybe we could do something like this for one day and pull off like a taste of Easthampton. And maybe that helps the restaurants to just sort of get a boost for a day or a weekend or something. Just do it for a Saturday, Sunday, sort of like cultural chaos, but just for restaurants.
Mo, take it away.
So I'm wondering, I don't know if the Council on Aging, they have that small little parking lot between, I worry about the street and folks taking food across the street, you know, and checking on their tables and all that sort of stuff. So, but I wonder, would that parking lot be something that we might be able to explore and set up, or is that silly talk?
It's possible. I'm sorry. Yeah, on the city side, that's completely possible. It would be
because
like
they have that barrier already there that separates the Big E's lot.
Yeah, no, that's completely possible, as is parking spaces at Cottage Street with a reroute of parking to Maple Street School. Like that's but you know, as far as like, how does it work for restaurants to use communal space? I mean, I have a couple of ideas about how it might work. And I'm happy to, you know, have a conversation or talk to it on Thursday at 10 a.m. on my virtual town hall or one by one, but I don't want to take up time here.
So,
but it would be
do you have a sense of what your next steps would be based on this conversation?
Well, I mean, I guess I brought this out hoping to have this conversation and get this kind of feedback and kind of get a perspective of how people would receive this, and, you know, are the challenges what I'm seeing and how surmountable are they? If the businesses are going to be able, if restaurants are going to be able to open with a, you know, substantial enough capacity in 2 weeks, I mean, then this plan is, you know, kind of pointless. We don't know if that really is the case. Hopefully it is, but hopefully nobody gets sick if that does happen as well. I guess what I'm worried about is that we do nothing, and then we lose, these restaurants and other businesses even from our city. And I don't think that we're looking at a great economic success in the next couple of years. I think it's going to be challenging times, and I would love to see the city do something to help. I'm not sure where it goes from here, and that's a good question.
So may I offer a response to that?
Please.
But I don't care. I'm just going to offer one. I think my reading of this conversation was not that we should scrap this. My reading was there are promising points in here, and it would be useful to get some input from the business owners who would be affected by something like this, and people's input. And I'm not saying we ask the planning department or ask anybody necessarily at the city. If you want to put together a small group of us or make up your own little committee of people who want to do some phone calls to find out what that might look like. I think that both Casey and Sunya have offered some pretty useful perspectives on what it means to be a restaurant owner in the city and what value there would be in being able to complement indoor seating, how people are thinking, like where is the majority of this set of restaurants landing right now in their thinking, and what are the ways that we can support them based on that thinking. So I don't think that the next steps are obvious. I think that we need a little bit more input from the people who would be affected by it. And I hear loud and clear the idea that we need to try to be as bold and nimble as possible, while also making it likely that people are still safe and we are keeping people's businesses alive to the extent that we possibly can help them. So that's where I am at. Is anybody else, does anyone else have a different read on what might happen next?
I would strongly suggest the next step, and Paul, maybe it's just you or another member of the committee, to sit down with somebody from the police department to show them the cycle, because they have a handle on other detours or detours, or they would just know. Like they could look, they could walk, they could listen to your traffic proposals, because they're going to have to sign off on them anyways and say, okay, that's good, that's not, like, and they'd be able to work, like tomorrow you could have, like when you're talking about get something done, that could happen tomorrow.
I actually spoke to Chief Alberti about this.
Great.
And he didn't seem like he didn't feel that the whole traffic itself was more the issue. What he was concerned about was potentially having tables too close to where one-way traffic would be, and what kind of safety concerns there would be having, pedestrians out there, and what kind of barriers that there would be. Were the things that he raised as his just offhand the things that he was concerned about. But I mean, certainly. It was, kind of an informal thing. He looked over this plan and gave me his thoughts there, and that was what he was concerned about mostly.
Yeah, I would just look for a sign off.
But yeah, of course, that makes sense.
So we don't like waste restaurant owner, getting people excited about that, or getting through that, and then, there are other people in City Hall, including myself, looking for these kinds of ideas that are allowed under the governor's guidelines.
Paul, do you like the idea of moving forward with a small group of other people?
Oh yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. That'd be.
Is there anybody
really
here who would like to think with Paul about this? Chris raised his hand.
Thank you, Chris.
I'm happy to weigh in and be helpful in a sort of tangential way. So let me know how I can hang out with you guys and do interesting things. So I'm going to wrap up that section of this meeting because we have no more meeting time left. I'm going to give you just a verbal overview of the message that I shared with you from Jeff, including that he attached a PDF of a zoning amendment that he's put forward to support new businesses in the downtown district. He's hoping to get EDIC support when it comes up for the city council public hearing, which will either be the second meeting in July or their meeting in August. And so I invite you to read that and familiarize yourselves with it. We can review it at what I believe will be July's meeting. It may be held like this, I don't know. And he asked me to update you all on the wayfinding meeting. You may remember that we submitted a grant for wayfinding funds to get a consultant to help us design what like parking and directional sorts of signs for the city could look like, to make sure that we made it clear that we've got multiple sections of our downtown area. Here's the Mill District, here's Cottage Street, here's what happens on Union Street. So we had on June 2nd a conversation with our consultant. It included Pasqualina and Josh was there, and two ladies I've never met in person were there, and the guy who owns New City. And we had a great conversation. He shared with us some examples of some of his work at some pretty diverse cities and towns across the Commonwealth. We had opportunities to say, listen, we care about road traffic, we care about bike traffic, we care about foot traffic. We need to be able to create some pattern, some logo, some schema that accommodates all those different kinds of looking for signs and looking for places. So that was useful, and there will be future meetings of that. I will share those opportunities to sit in on those conversations as you would like. Chris, we did not get to ADUs by right today. We can in July.
Okay,
yeah.
I don't have an update for you anyway.
What?
That's okay, I don't have an update for you anyway.
Okay. So is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up? I forgot to put new business on the agenda, but I'll give you a verbal opportunity.
I would just say, Gwen, under the ADUs, if you haven't had a chance to drive down Grove Street, actually, to see the one that technically is Mayor Street, it's pretty much done. They're just doing some additional landscaping. But as I suspected from the beginning, it looks like it's always been there.
It looks really beautiful. It's an exceptional building, really cute.
Yep.
So it's been a joy to look at all of your shining faces, and thank you for joining us. Omar, I hope you had a great time these last 15 minutes. And I'll look forward to seeing all of you in July, if not sooner. Chris and Paul will be in touch about stuff. And for now, anybody have a motion to end this meeting?
I motion.
Second.
Outstanding. All in favor of closing this meeting, holler aye.
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 Oh, great. Look at all of you. Chris, I need a thumbs up from you. Great. Thank you. All right, y'all. Have a
Thank
great
you.